Not too often you hear Cleveland and cheering. Well, tonight, that is the case. Cavalier fans celebrating what many people would have thought impossible just a few years ago. LeBron James here, the favorite son, at least at one point, announcing his next play is to put his old jersey back on. He is heading home. And after countless threats of lawsuit, House Republicans taking action against President Obama, filing paperwork to begin the litigation process to actually sue the president for utilizing executive power or power overreach. Will this Congress ever work with the president on anything? Tonight, we'll be sitting down with Congressman Tim Bishop from Long Island to get his say. Plus, as day 9 of a looming strike wraps up, there is still no deal between the MTA and the unions representing the Long Island Railroad workers. We have been seeing them possibly walk off the job. We've seen it before here, but the question is, what will it look like if it happens again here, and how close are we to an actual deal? We'll talk about that and much more coming up. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to dive into the politics, both of the state and nationally, coming up in just a few minutes. But we begin where we don't usually go, sports, and certainly not even sports about our area. But the announcement by LeBron James here, this has crossed over from sports into something much more. He is saying goodbye to the Miami Heat after 4 years and 4 title runs here and heading back to where it started, his hometown, if you will, Cleveland, to once again team up with the Cavs and Cav fans. They couldn't be more ecstatic.
The king is coming home. Woo! Get home right now. Come on, we want you back right now. Right now. Get here.
He was always coming back,
He loves us.
bringing a championship to Cleveland.
I've been wearing Cav stuff all week.
Sure you were. Well, today, fans' reaction, a much different picture than the one we saw when LeBron announced he was leaving Cleveland and heading, or taking his talents, I should say, to Miami. The fan reaction, they went to the streets, they burned the jerseys, they wish they held on to them now, right? And they did a whole lot more.
Well, everybody is on pins and needles across the country, particularly those teams who are in the running for LeBron James. LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
Miami Heat. That was the conclusion you woke up with this morning.
That was the conclusion I woke up with this morning.
Well, there was no decision, no program, no build-up, no dramatic music, and no celebration we expect afterwards with a whole bells and whistles. Instead, it was a letter. LeBron, he went on to win, as you know, in his time with the Heat in 4 years, 4 title runs, including 2 titles outright. Now, though, he says, time to move on. He first broke the news to Sports Illustrated. The full announcement came out in the form of an essay written by LeBron James. I got to tell you, if you haven't read it, if you read it, you really believe it came from him and from the heart. And this is just a small caption. This is not about the roster or the organization. I feel my calling here goes above basketball. I have a responsibility to lead in more ways than one, and I take that very seriously. My presence can make a difference in Miami, but I think it can mean more from where I come from. I want kids in Northeast Ohio, like the hundreds of Akron third graders I sponsored through my foundation, to realize there's no better place to grow up. Maybe some of them will come home after college and start a family or open a business. That would make me smile. Our community, which has struggled so much, needs all the talent that it can get. In Northeast Ohio, nothing is given, everything is earned. You work for what you have. I'm ready to accept the challenge. I am coming home. All right, and with that, I want to bring in our panel. Joe Lombardi, managing editor at dailyvoice.com, and he's covering sports for a whole long time here, both sports editor and writer at the Journal News, many may remember. Shelley Mayer, Democratic New York State Assemblywoman and represents the city of Yonkers and Albany, and I don't believe she played for the Cavaliers. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author who's taken his talents here, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent, who's already cynical. How dare you?
Me?
Yes, you. Joe, this is a feel-good story. I haven't found anybody who hasn't said, this kind of feels like the way it's supposed to be. The favorite son from Ohio. How many people want to go back to Ohio or Cleveland? But he did, and I found very little bad reaction. Sure, there's some in Miami, but in 4 years, he delivered on the promise from when he came.
Yeah, he really did, Richard, and I think it was important for LeBron in this situation, under these circumstances, the way this whole thing played out, to do exactly what he did, because it would have been flat out cruel to have this specter after ditching Cleveland the way he did, possibly going back, dangling it in front of the poor, long-suffering Cleveland fans. And I went to college in Ohio. I know what it's like in Ohio and how loyal people are and how much it hurt them when he left 4 years ago. I think he did the right thing. I think he did it for the right reasons. And I think, you mentioning the essay, this was the perfect way to handle it. It didn't have the glitz, of the ESPN production of the decision. This was just a from the heart statement that he made about why he's decided to go home. I thought it played out perfectly.
And Dominic, for people who haven't, they should read the full context of the letter, but he spoke about a kid in a place where not a lot of people want to be. Growing up as that kid, and more than that, going back to that place because he thought he owed more. And there was a lot of bad blood here. Remember the letter that the owner of the Cavaliers, and still owner, wrote about him, calling him a coward, and much worse than that here. You would have thought that bridge was not only burned, exploded, and then eviscerated again, and it never would have been crossed. Apparently, and I don't know how the media, believe it or not, with the 24/7 didn't get this, they did have a private meeting, and apparently the axes were buried here and apologies made. It's a big deal beyond even sports, him coming back.
Well, the handwriting was on the wall a few days ago when the letter that the owner wrote, the poisonous letter, if you will, was taken off of the website because it had remained. This is much bigger than basketball. This is really about saving the economy, if you will, perhaps of an entire state. I mean, LeBron James is basketball. He is the NBA. And this is also about legacy for him. Very wise move, very smart marketing move. He wants to have, we know he has the talents, but he was never going to get over the way that he had left Cleveland to begin with. So by going home, it's now almost a Cinderella story where there is no loser,
Yeah,
Richard.
and for me, he wore the black hat, I thought, undeserved after he left, and sure, he handled his departure terribly. But if you think about it, never gets in trouble, always plays hard, by all accounts, a good guy who's given back a lot. Think of all the pro stars who've let us down here in one way or the other, off the court or off the field. He wasn't one of them. And Shelley, to you, this is more than just sports here. I mean, we don't get too many happy endings with these things. We don't know how this is going to turn out, but we got one at least here, at least to this point.
Right, and for small, Cleveland's a big city, but for cities that have hit a hard time, that's why it really, I feel an affinity. One, I lived in Buffalo, and these Rust Belt cities, there's this presumption that the East Coast is sort of where everyone has to be in the whole world, and who would want to go back to Ohio? Yes, people for whom it's their home want to go back there. And this was a reaffirmation that those cities, the Detroits, the Clevelands, the Buffaloes, they still mean something to the people who grew up there and who live there and the families there and the kids there. And I take it really sincerely what he said about the kids there. And I know for me in the city of Yonkers, to have superstars, and we've had a few that have gone on to the NBA and other professional sports from the city of Yonkers Public Schools, when they come back, you cannot believe how powerful it is to not only the third grade, but to the high school kids for whom, this is the mark of success.
That you
and
can not
it's
only
so
make it
meaningful.
out, but you can come back too.
Exactly. So for me, I'm a little bit of a sucker for it.
Yeah.
I think it's a great story. I'm thrilled that he made this decision.
I'm a little more cynical, I guess, than everybody. First of all, the message that he sent to Cleveland was, you really can't make it here. You can go as far as you can go, and then I'm going to leave to get my championships, and now I'm going to come back and be the big man because I am the big man.
But he chose to come back.
No, but he could have stayed and built Cleveland and built the Cavaliers into a winning team, which is what Michael Jordan did with the Bulls, and that's what Kobe Bryant has done with the Lakers. It's, there have been some superstars who have moved around, but if it's really that heartfelt, if it's really all about Cleveland, stay in Cleveland and build the Cavaliers
but if I
that
follow
way.
that, you never can make a career decision that you'll ever regret. You can never go home again. And I think that if this proves it, and listen, I'm not making this more than it is, but you know what? It's hard to actually exaggerate the importance of this. I heard people, and I'm not suggesting that I'd go this far, but you had people crying on radio and everything else because exactly of what Shelley said. They're always the punchline, the mistake by the lake. Yeah, you get out if you can, and God knows you don't go back, right? And he chose to get back, and to them it said, we don't suck.
Wait, are they title contenders right now?
They went
right now?
Did you see the odds? What happened?
Yeah, they shot up. I don't think they're going to win a title for at least a year or two.
Just to one point, I'll let you speak to it, Joe.
Right, sure.
But Vegas had them starting off the day at 100-1 odds,
Right.
and Miami at 3-1.
Right.
Right now, Vegas, who's the smartest money around, has them 3-1 odds, and Miami's at
But
100-1.
my only point is everybody's saying victory for Cleveland. This is you can make it. Look at Cleveland's stuff.
Even if they
Just
don't
because
win,
they
Andrew.
signed him, that's the difference. There's a difference between signing him and winning it.
Well, I tell you what, basketball is unique from a lot of sports in that you really need either one or two great players or three really good ones to win a title. Look at the Bulls during their run. That's really all they had was Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and some
That's all.
supporting
Just
players.
those
So-
two. That's
but you don't need numbers. So you don't, like a football team, you really need to get 20 guys. So I think by having LeBron and you have Kyrie Irving and you have Andrew Wiggins, those could be your three right there.
And they're already talking about swapping a few pieces and
so,
getting
I mean,
another
that
big
could
name
be.
player like a
It's
Kevin
not
Love.
out of the question. They could go out and win the title next year. I think it will probably take another year because they are very young overall. But it could
Richard,
happen.
and winning is defined also not by basketball games, but by the amount of jobs that come along with LeBron James. And now you're going from a major losing streak over the last 4 years to being sold out every home game. Everywhere he goes, it's like the circus is in town.
Yeah.
And remember, he, through his friendship with his boys and his buddies, they have overnight built Cleveland sports teams up. Now, I see the look of...
Are you saying his posse? His posse is a stimulus program?
Yes, and let me tell you why. No sports team in Cleveland has won a major championship in 50 years. His boy is now the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, Johnny Manziel. So you got a star football player. You got the LeBron James.
Yeah, I know.
Cleveland is on the rise.
Whoever thought
You
we'd
know,
hear that?
I just think what's funny is before 2 days ago, we were all, and moaning, fill in the blank of moaning about how these entitled NBA guys, like, basically have taken over the league where they'll decide who they're going to go with, and the owners who are used to calling the shots are now in the background. Now
Some
all of
of
a
us
sudden,
like that, Richard.
okay, I know that. But now LeBron James makes a decision where he went from this despised athlete to the most beloved athlete. I saw this going on, this snap poll. Cleveland is all of a sudden, I'm going to root for Cleveland. They never win anything. Let them win something. It's a good story now. And yes, there's the cynics out there who are going to want the black cloud.
Did he take less than
you
the
say
maximum?
Andrew?
Did he take less than the maximum? Oh, he took the maximum contract.
What does that
Why
have to do
shouldn't
with
he?
anything?
Because we were talking about entitled sports
Since
stars.
when do you begrudge people
No,
money?
you were just talking about everybody was so convinced with these entitled sports stars. If he really wanted he could have left some money on the table
What?
so that he could sign some more players so they could win the championship. Is this about winning the championship,
Do
or is it
you-
about LeBron and the White
Do you
House?
do you root for coal in the stockings? Come on! Would you let Cleveland have a bone? Andrew?
I'm looking out for Cleveland in all this. I'm just saying.
You would have told him. It sounds like if you were Dan Gilbert, you would have given him the finger and told him to come back.
How many times are they going to give their heart to this guy and he keeps breaking?
You know
He
what?
keeps
They
breaking
seem to be pretty happy tonight. All right. We're going to be right back, everybody. We're going to get into, among other things, the Long Island Railroad strike. Joe, thank you so much.
Pleasure, Richard. Thank you.
Thanks for having me,
Thank
pal.
you, guys.
We'll be right back.
With you.